Hello, my name is Zach Tveitnes, and this is the final presentation of my crop consulting business, Tveitnes Agronomics. Here's an overview for Tveitnes Agronomics. The vision of the company is that it strives to become the primary, respected, trustworthy resource for farmers in the southeast central Nebraska area. And the mission statement for the company is to provide an educated, unbiased recommendation for our clients' agronomic enterprises. A little history about Tveitnes Agronomics is that it's currently being run by John Mittman in the York and Seward area, and he has experience crop consulting for over 25 years. He had a degree from Iowa State in agronomy, and I've worked with him for the past 8 years. And so when he retires, I'll take over the business, and it'll become Tveitnes Agronomics. The main competitive advantage that Tveitnes Agronomics has is an established and loyal client base in the York and Seward areas. Many of these accounts have been serviced for 15 to 20 years, and they're satisfied with the work that's been done, and they're familiar with me, and I'm familiar with their operations. Independent consulting in general has an advantage of being unbiased with their product recommendations, because our company would not be selling agronomic products. So the farmer can be assured that the products that we do recommend are based off of observations we made in the field, and they're not based on stuff where they're trying to pawn off onto them. Benefits that the farmer receives from Tveitnes Agronomics would be unbiased recommendations, an educated and experienced resource, because I see a lot of things throughout the field, throughout the season, and not just from their operations, so from operations in the area, so they can get information from that as well. And then it reduces the workload on the farmer. They don't have to scout the fields themselves, and they can just focus on the planting and on the harvesting and all the other operations that go on throughout the season. And then it gives them peace of mind. Farmers know that their fields are being looked after and closely monitored, so that it can make them worry less. Tveitnes Agronomics revolves almost entirely around the field scouting during the growing season, and the pricing model for the customers would be $11 an acre for irrigated corn and soybeans, an extra $2 an acre for seed corn due to the high value of the crop and also the loss of acres due to isolation, and then $9 an acre for dry land because we don't have to worry about irrigation scheduling. Now these prices entitle the customer to field scouting during the summer once a week with weekly reports, and then the off season involves soil sampling to test for fertilizer, to test for nutrient needs, as well as planter maintenance, government paperwork, and agronomic research, all of which goes into more detail in the paper. There are several people who are crucial to the ongoing success of Tveitnes Agronomics, involving both internal and external personnel. For internal personnel, the whole business revolves around the full-time agronomists. I would be the primary one, and then as the business progresses, there would be potentially room to hire a second full-time agronomist. These are the people that make the final call on all recommendations in the field, and they're also the ones that work full-time throughout the entire year. So they're the ones doing the paperwork, the government paperwork in the winter, as well as the soil sampling in the fall. And then in the summer, because there's too much work to be done for just one or two people, Tveitnes Agronomics would hire some seasonal field scouts. And these are usually college students who are interested in agronomy, as well as potentially retired individuals who are still looking for something to do, some way to keep active. And then also teachers have been a good source of summer labor because they have the summers off and they often want to do something that's outdoors or a little different from what they usually do with their teaching job. Now, these workers are only working in the summer and they scout the fields, but the full-time agronomist has to make the final call on the recommendations. For external individuals, the most important is probably the chemical and seed representatives. They're the ones who are willing to take questions from the agronomists and who know their products inside and out and are able to answer detailed questions about how to properly recommend products into a field. And then some other external personnel would be an accountant for managing the company's books, since I don't have the expertise to do that entirely myself. And then also a mechanic for when we have mid-season breakdowns in the pickups and in the four-wheelers. Living in Nebraska, many of us are well aware that the farming economy is currently down. Prices for grain crops are much lower than they have been in the past than they were 5 years ago. And so that creates a strain on the farmers. It makes margins very thin, so they need to be well aware of where they're spending their money, and then they need to maximize their yield to get every penny they can out of their fields. And so this is good and bad for a consulting business. Due to the lack of money available, farmers may not be willing to shell out money for a consulting fee. However, the consulting fee is pretty minimum compared to the rest of the prices. And when grain prices are low, it's very important for farmers to be well aware of what they're spending, and a consultant can help do that. They can help cut costs where the farmer may not have thought of otherwise. In general, though, there's been an increased demand for consultants over the years, mostly due to new technology and then the just hundreds of new agronomic products that come out all the time, as far as pesticides and fertilizers and various growth treatments and things like that. So it's hard for the farmer to keep up with all that. As far as the target clientele goes, Tveitnes Agronomics would be going after farmers who are the small to medium range, mostly under 4,000 acres in their operation, so that it's easy for us to maintain that close personal relationship that creates that loyalty and the trust that the farmer has in us. There are several critical risks that I need to be aware of as the owner of Tveitnes Agronomics so that I can prevent the company from folding unexpectedly. The primary risk for independent crop consultants is crop injury, that is a result of an error on a recommendation. If a crop consultant is found liable for a mistake that can kill an entire field, they could be held liable for up to, say, $500,000, which would bankrupt most companies. Therefore, it's really important as an independent consultant that I carry errors and omissions insurance, so that hopefully I never need it. But if the scenario arises where I make a big mistake like that, that it wouldn't destroy the company. This would be an internal risk because it's something directly that I can directly control. Another big risk that's related to most all enterprises is economic downturn. With agronomy, it'd be specifically a downturn in the farming economy, sort of like the one we're facing currently. However, this one isn't bad enough that it's starting to bankrupt companies, but there is potential for that to happen. So it's important that as a consultant that I diversify and have a wide client base instead of just one or two big clients, that if they would drop, that would make the company go under. A final risk would be personal injury to myself, which would prevent me from walking in the fields and doing the scouting that I need to do. A big way to prevent this would be I can't really prevent injury besides being careful, but I can help mitigate the risk by holding disability insurance. Here's a quick overview of some of the financials for Tveitnes Agronomics. The cash flow statement and the balance sheet are included with the paper, but this income statement will provide a nice overview of expenses and income. As you can see, the consulting revenue is quite high. This is based upon the 2016 revenue with the company that I'm currently working with, and it's roughly 35,000 acres is included in that revenue. And then on year 3 through 5, I bumped the acres to 38,000 to account for a slight increase, which hopefully would occur after a few years. As far as expenses go, the wages are the primary expense, with paying out the summer helpers, and then also the owner's salary, which can be divvied up into salary and executive withdrawals. And then there's also several expenses involving the vehicles with repairs and gas, and then office supplies and insurance with the errors and omissions, like I mentioned, workman's comp, and various things like that, auto insurance. And then education involves going to meetings and learning about new products. And then the soil sampling expenses is the testing of soil samples, and then also paying the people to take the samples. I thank you for listening, and I also thank you for the valuable information that was presented throughout the semester.